Okay, we have a green box, we have a live counter ticking up, so we should now be live, which of course means welcome back to the Storytime Network. It is a Saturday, it is a Paradox Hour podcast, it is talking about death and reincarnation tropes.
We are probably going to focus mostly on stuff related to reincarnation, the afterlife, resurrection, and so on. Because death is a very broad subject.
Yeah, we're just gonna start the weekend off real light.
Yeah.
Very lighthearted. Just
we're close enough to Halloween.
It is the spoopy season, yes.
I forgot that was a thing that existed.
What, Halloween?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay then.
Look, sometimes I forget things.
I suppose so. But yes, death is a very happy thing, very positive thing that we totally don't have a number of primal fears revolving around. No sorry. But yeah, it's like, since death is one of the very few things in life that is truly, completely inevitable for everybody, there is a lot of depictions of it in a variety of ways in fiction. And so there are a lot of tropes surrounding it. Well, what we're going to try to hone in on stuff related to, like, resurrection, reincarnation, the afterlife, and all that, since that's more coherently thematic than, like, just talking about the broad specter of death. But regardless, it's still a juicy topic that we could probably dedicate multiple streams to.
Death is very prevalent in media, as it turns out.
Yeah, no, like 90% of media is going to have some death in it. Even like the relatively lighthearted stuff is going to reference death at some point.
So you're saying that this inevitable specter that haunts every aspect of human life is prevalent in media?
Yeah, I know, it's a shocker, right? Truly shocking.
So do we want to start with isekai or like work our way up to it?
No, let's start with the OG on reincarnation. Hinduism.
Oh, that's okay. That's we're going real old school, huh?
Hinduism is one of the oldest religion. I think it's the oldest currently practiced religion in the world, and it is the oldest religion that does depict reincarnation as a major tenet of its religious beliefs. At least to my understanding.
No, well, yes.
But yeah, reincarnation is something that's prevalent and much more prevalent in a lot of Eastern religions than, say, the Abrahamic faiths. Because the Abrahamic faiths are much more of the belief that there is a permanent afterlife after you die and no reincarnation. Whereas stuff like Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, and stuff that originated from that region of the world, reincarnation is a major part of the belief system. And it's basically like, if I recall correctly, you go to one of the three places where when you die, you either go to a hell, or you reincarnate, or you go to a heaven. And in Buddhism, I believe that is nirvana, which you achieve after you
That's okay. So I'm
vastly oversimplifying it.
Yes, I am going to step in here as the resident mythology nerd.
Please do.
So, with afterlives in general, there tend to be three flavors in this regard.
Yes.
There tends to be a localized / temporary afterlife.
Mm-hmm.
there's a
Permanent afterlife.
yes, this final permanent afterlife, and then there's the cycle of reincarnation. Now, it's important to note, oftentimes there's overlap between the first two.
Yes.
The permanent
like
afterlife is
purgatory,
kind
for
of,
example.
well, no, I mean like the 6 paths of reincarnation.
Right.
The Wheel of Samsara. In that case,
Oh, that's how it's pronounced. Okay.
in that case, it is heavens and hells are not really a thing. They are just
That's
different
right.
possible lives that you can incarnate into, depending on your merit and sin.
Because I do
On your
remember
karma.
reading that I think it was either Buddhism or Hinduism.
That's
There are like
Buddhism.
different levels of hell that you
No,
pass through to reincarnate, depending on your sins.
so, okay, that is basically global. Like,
Okay.
the majority of mythologies that depict a hell have multiple levels of hell.
Well, no, I mean like different levels depending on the severity of your actions in your previous life, and then after a certain amount of time going through that hell, you reincarnate. Or is that not a
Yes,
thing?
that is about this thing. Yes,
Ah, okay.
I'm much less well versed in Hinduism than I am in Buddhism, or at least in the afterlife aspect.
Hmm.
But generally, there's enough overlap that, and especially because over time they've kind of bled into each other so much that it's hard to like pick apart the differences in the
They did
modern era.
they did originate from the same subcontinent, so I'm not too
Yes,
surprised.
they came from the same place. They share roots. I do believe Hinduism was first, but then
Yeah.
Buddhism was heavily influenced by Vedic mythology. So yes,
So,
there is.
based on my knowledge of world religions, Hinduism is the only major world religion around right now, or of the major five, that has no known founder, because it's that old.
It's also very likely that there wasn't a singular founder
Exactly.
for Hinduism.
But yes,
Because it
Buddhism
is.
did have a founder.
Yes.
The big guy is
Siddhartha
quite famous
Gautama.
for that, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he did. There are
Did I
quite a
pronounce
few.
that correctly, by the way, or did I fuck that up?
Siddhartha Gautama.
Ah, okay. I have trouble with some of those words, so I do appreciate the correction.
Yeah, it's fine. But yeah, Hinduism is something that most likely grew organically out of folk religion and folk belief.
Sounds about right.
It's somewhat similar to Shintoism in that regard. Isn't
Hmm.
Shintoism also one of those things that there isn't really a singular founder?
Yes, most religions in which uh, like polytheism or animism are like the
Yes.
predominant theory do not have singular founders.
Yeah, mostly because they kind of just
They're grassroots, effectively.
yes, and then the body of mythology is essentially a melting pot of every regional, local
Yes.
sort of religion. But yes,
All this is a long way to say that like the history of reincarnation as a belief and or as a fictional device is very, very old, and
well,
has a
no,
lot of.
it's because death, right? Death is the eternal companion to humanity.
To all
And
living things.
So, it's funny. I actually was talking to one of my psychology professors about this because I had a lecture on the Neo-Freudians last Monday.
Oh boy, that's fun.
So I learned about Adler, which is new. He had some disagreements with Freud. One of the major disagreements he had with Freud was the idea that men and women are equal.
Charming.
Oh boy.
Which obviously Freud strongly disagreed with that notion, and Adler was like, but like men and women have the same base psychological and biological needs, and Freud was like, how dare? Get out.
Yeah, Freud was very much big on the whole daddy/mommy issues thing.
But yeah, what I really was interested in was the Jungian collective unconscious, and we actually talked a bit, I, being the good little nerd slash teacher's pet that I am, stayed after class to talk to the prof about, is that what is the, like, while Jungian unconscious, the collective unconscious is very, like, has a lot of mystical mumbo jumbo, there's some actual substance there. And what my professor said is like, well, humanity basically all originated in the same place.
Yep.
So essentially, the entire collective unconsciousness is just the natural progression of the culture and myths that were prevalent during the origin of humanity at like, in the cradle of civilization.
There is a lot of talk of comparative mythology as well, and
Yeah,
comparative folktales.
but one of the things that I wanted to bring up with regards to this, and I know this is a bit off topic, but it is very relevant for background information for what we're going to be talking about today, the Pleiades. So
Star,
that
right?
the star cluster, yes. So, do you want to know something really weird?
Sure.
Almost every culture that could see the Pleiades, so in the northern hemisphere, almost every culture that features the Pleiades in their mythology feature it as a group of 7 women, and the stories are about how the 7th one went into, because without modern telescopes and in the night sky, the most visible, there are 6 very visible stars in the Pleiades. And
Yes.
every story is about how there were originally 7, but the 7th one, fricked off somewhere.
Yes.
And what I learned is I read that there's a possibility. The reason this is that over 100,000 years ago, there was in fact a 7th star that was more visible.
But became less visible over time.
And basically, that means that the fact that the Pleiades had 7 visible stars is a singular fact that has been passed down through the human species for over 100,000 years.
Kind of incredible if you think about it.
Right? Like, just think about the sheer weight of 100 millennia and the fact that there is actually information that could have been passed down uninterrupted through human hands for that long.
Kind of crazy to think about.
Right? It's like it kind of blows your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And in that same vein, death is an internal companion of humanity, and as emotional social animals, we constantly try and reconcile ourselves with that fact, and I'm sure we have for all eternity. And so it was a necessary comfort in a not even a civilization, but because this is long predating civilization, in a species that constantly is essentially on the edge of life and death, because hunter-gatherers were essentially could face the threat of death and the death of their loved ones at any given moment.
Yep.
So they had to reconcile it, and reincarnation was just one of the most natural, comforting things about it, is just like, well, of course I'm going to think this, because the idea that my loved ones will live again is much more comforting than the idea that they're just gone forever.
Yes, the idea that there is a complete cessation of existence after death has always been
It's terrifying because it's incomprehensible. Like, anything that exists cannot comprehend the cessation of existence inherently.
Mm-hmm.
And what is incomprehensible as on the subject of horrible bigots, since we've already talked about Freud, it's what Lovecraft tapped into to great success.
Oh yeah. Didn't he
Right?
name his dog or his cat a slur?
Yes, he did. He was he was considered racist even by his peers at the time.
Which is
Keep in mind,
a fair old achievement.
Yes,
no.
exactly. It's like, in a time where everyone was some degree of racist, he was considered especially racist.
Yes. Like, ludicrously racist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the man could
Almost
write.
impressive. Yes. But yeah, so basically this is all a very long way of saying, like, the history of the afterlife and reincarnation in fiction and in mythology and in culture and religion dates back a very long time and has a quite understandable foundation to it. But reincarnation is an interesting thing because it has a lot of possible applications in both in storytelling. Unfortunately, it's rarely used to its full potential. So let's talk about Isekai real quick and get that out of the way.
Come on, with with considering it's like almost a core premise in Isekai, we have to talk about it a little bit more than just briefly.
I know, but still.
Because
Yeah,
like,
it's not like you
like that-
particularly enjoy isekai.
Like there are absolutely, some isekai that aren't that manage to avoid the whole die and suddenly exist in another world. But the vast majority of isekai pull that to the point where it is a trope in anime for Truck-kun to make an appearance in isekai.
Yes.
Truck-kun is in fact the guardian deity of forced isekai reincarnation.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. But yeah, it is a very interesting thing to explore for sure. But isekai usually just defaults to, oh, I am Killith and I am suddenly transported to another world, or I am reborn as a baby in this world. Oh no.
I mean,
Okay, let's talk about that one, because that one's one of the more
Dicey. It's very dicey.
potentially horrifying ones.
well, here's the thing. It's better in one sense and worse in another sense. Because it's better in one sense because it means that we know there are isekais where the character from our world will take over a person in the other world, and I've never felt comfortable with those ones.
What if it? Okay, I have an important question about that.
Yeah.
What if it's consensual?
All right, if it's consensual, then I guess I don't have a leg to stand on. But the big example that always comes to mind for me was Bookworm. Where we literally hear a little child die and then get basically replaced.
Yep.
So okay, that is a specific genre of reincarnation, which I believe, for lack of a better term, is termed as transmigration.
Yes. That is my understanding of the term.
Yes, there are 3 flavors of isekai: straight reincarnation, transmigration, and full-on portal fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. The latter is a different topic for a different time.
Well, no, transmigration does count in the reincarnation spectrum, I believe.
No, I mean the last of the 3 you mentioned.
What, the portal fantasy stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, yes, no, transmigration and reincarnation are what we're going to be talking about today.
Mm-hmm.
Now, transmigration actually has three
Sub-genres?
not
Subflavors?
subgenres, it's three possible cases.
3 flavors. We'll call them
Yes,
flavors.
3 flavors. The first flavor is the most ick flavor. Let's get the ick out of the way first. Is the forced possession,
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
which is when I mean, I don't need to like clarify that much because it's like, yes,
It's exactly what it says on the tin.
Yes. The second flavor is one of the more common ones, and I think you can make an argument that bookworm falls under this category or forced possession. It's kind of in a gray area where the soul occupies the corpse of the recently deceased.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's so recently deceased that they effectively barely died at all.
Yes, that is it's not sometimes, that is the most common. Is that
Mhm.
like immediately upon the death and the departure of the previous soul, the new soul just pops right in.
Yep.
Seamlessly.
That, I believe, is the case with Bookworm and a couple other isekai I've seen.
Yes. And the third one is one you don't see as often in Japanese media, but is actually quite common in a lot of the trashy Chinese web novels that I read. Fusion.
Ah, the merged soul.
Yes. Where the two souls sort of merge and like the result, it's the Gappy situation.
The what now?
It's a mother frickin' JoJo's reference.
Ah, yes, that.
Right? Where these two souls merge and the new entity is simultaneously neither and both.
Yes.
And that
And it's
happens in
sort of-
JoJo's?
Part 8, I believe.
Oh,
That
would explain it.
Look, some of us are current on JoJo's. For some
I'm only current
ungodly
with the
reason.
anime, but I have heard bits and pieces about parts 7 and 8.
I have. Look, I went down the rabbit hole a long time ago and I never stopped.
That's JoJo for you.
There's something very. Let me tell you, there's something very painful about reading JoJo's as it's ongoing.
Yeah, I'm not subjecting myself to that.
Yeah, that's why I'm not going to read Part 9 until it's like at least halfway done.
How will you know when it's halfway done, though?
Half the cast will be dead.
Okay, whatever.
Or a stand
Anyways.
called Living on a Prayer will appear.
Or we'll get the
I see what you did there.
God, I'm
Yeah.
glad somebody did. There was a silence there that worried me.
My dude, I grew up on that nonsense. I can.
You gotta love Journey. Gotta love Journey.
There was just a small silence there that was like, did they get it? Did they get it? Oh God, did they get it?
I just was trying to process that for a second. Just took me a second to process it. But yes, what was I gonna say? So yeah, the Merger of Souls one isn't too common, but the most common of transmigration that I've seen is definitely the replacing of the old soul.
Oh, do you know what is very funny?
Yeah.
Merger of Souls, I found, is probably by percentage most common in Western genre, a la Cradle.
Well, I don't think we saw any isekai in Cradle, but
No, but
I
like,
get what you're going for.
like when Western authors write a genre-focused isekai, generally the Merger of Souls is more common.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this
Sorry,
is
I'm just trying to think of if I've read any fan fictions that have done this.
Yes, Mill, we know what your filthy, filthy secrets are. You don't have to remind us.
No, I'm genuinely trying to remember if there have been. There might have been. I feel like I remember something about that, but I can't remember exactly where.
But yeah, in any case, the vast majority of the time, it's going to be the second one, the transition.
Yep.
Because like even like the trashiest authors generally know how ick the forced possession can be. So
Oh
you don't
yeah,
really.
no, it is genuinely very uncomfortable.
Uh, Actually, I did read a story recently that kind of threw that on its head.
Oh,
The main character was the dude who was about to get
possessified.
possessified. Yes. However, there was some shenanigans going on in his tragic backstory that allowed him to turn the tables.
Well, how the turntables.
Yeah, so he not only did he end up banishing the soul of the human office worker, because of course it was an office worker from Earth who died of overwork.
Shocker.
Not only was he able to banish the soul and absorb its power, he also took his isekai cheat.
Huh.
Oh ho ho.
Unfortunately, the translation of that story is god awful, so I will not be recommending it.
Fair enough.
Understandable.
It's like
Sometimes a bad translation can just absolutely ruin a whole story, huh?
yeah, I don't know if this is sad or not, but I have basically read enough bad translations that my brain has achieved the state of autocorrect.
That is
Where I
kind of
can,
funny, honestly.
yeah, where my brain can just sort of like know what it means, but it was rough in the early days.
Mm-hmm.
I've got something similar for badly written fanfiction.
Anyways, back on topic. The reincarnation mechanic is how well it's used and how much it gets utilized varies substantially from series to series.
Well, there's two flavors of reincarnation.
Mm-hmm.
One is the become Bappy,
Yes.
and the
And
other is, I think, the objectively, probably it's the best possible isekai mechanic.
oh ho.
It is the awakening memories of a past life mechanic.
Right. So it's similar to the merger of souls, but backwards almost.
Yeah, because it's like it.
This person was
Then,
always the other person. It's just they are just now realizing that they were always the other.
yes,
So
yes.
that's the route that
Ocarina went with that.
Ocarina
Yes.
went, yeah.
But yes, the that is probably the best of the you can get with these.
Mhm.
Well, no, the best you can get is a consensual slash beneficial transmigration, which is
Mhm.
more of a body swap.
Or a sharing of bodies, as it were.
Body sharing can get like into weird power dynamic body autonomy things, so I
Fair
prefer
enough.
not go into that. But like when it's a body swap and it like even when it's only consensual on one side, if it's beneficial to the other side, then it's generally I consider it better. But like the whole awakening, because what that is it's more of an extension of nature than something unnatural happening.
Yes.
Because it establishes that there already is a cycle of reincarnation. The
Mhm.
reincarnation has just happened, and it's okay. Everyone's fine with that. And then the awakening of the memories is the only weird thing. But at the same time, that is just something that's present in every mythology.
Yes.
Retaining or awakening memories of your previous life.
Well, not every mythology, but a lot of them. Yes.
Most mythologies with reincarnation will
Yes.
have subsection
Mhm.
where there's of people who can recover their memories.
Yep.
Now, let's talk about some. Okay, you know what? No. We'll get to that in a minute. Let's continue on the bashing of isekai.
Oh boy.
Guys, it's real weird when an adult man becomes a baby.
Becomes a baby and is there thinking, oh, look, boobs.
Yeah, the whole
Cough,
reborn as a baby
Tensei.
and wants to suck
Cough.
some titties. Yes, you don't need to say it, Mill. We already know.
No, I had to say it.
Okay, fair. But yes, yeah. It's very awkward and very not good.
Mm-hmm.
For a variety of reasons. Like, so I know one story, one series I watched recently did a different variant that was just like they're reincarnated, but their memories are suppressed for a few years, so they don't have to deal with the quote-unquote trauma of reliving their infancy with an adult mind, which I think handles it substantially better in that way.
Which is essentially just the second flavor.
Yes, it is essentially that.
It's postnatal awakening.
Yes, postnatal, yes. But yeah, just retaining all memories from infancy is just very weird and very awkward, and has a lot of potential for grossness.
So, do you know what's funny? There is a story I have read where that is actually addressed, except it's addressed in like a very awkward way.
Oh boy.
Where the reincarnated individual is not a gross perv, at least in that sense, though he does later end up getting together with a childhood friend, which just is... We're going to talk about that in a minute.
Oh yeah, no, we will talk about the ethics of that.
Yes. But he comes clean to his parents in his new life, and they are they are horrified and actually just reject him. Which leads to
Interesting.
Which leads to an entire thing, and then the dad dies at war and he's not around for it, and then they reconcile, but there's always a sense of... So it's like, it basically does take the most melodramatic... It would be great if it was written better, but unfortunately the quality of... The idea is there, but the quality of the writing could not support it.
Unfortunate.
But the mother does specifically mention, oh my god, I breastfed an adult man. Which is just like, she does... The parents are understandably traumatized for a while, but they do have the knee-jerk reaction of just outright rejection.
Again, understandable. Not what's usually the reaction, but it's understandable.
Though that in and of itself, do you believe that is an appropriate reaction, or is it something of an overreaction? Because here's the thing. While there is that layer of deception, it does not change the years of emotional attachment and bonding. Right? That's still there.
Mm-hmm.
They lived happily as a family for over a decade at that point. So it's like...
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. There's an element of, keeping a secret that should be addressed.
You also have to remember, in most cases, the reincarnated individual doesn't really have a choice in the matter.
No.
Mm-hmm. Very few times are they asked by whatever entity reincarnates them, like, hey, would you like to be reincarnated? No? Screw you, you get reincarnated anyways.
And I don't even mean that. They don't... Not only that, they definitely don't even get to pick where or when or how they're reincarnated.
Mm-hmm. Also true.
Well... the protagonists usually don't, though in Japanese media there's a lot of cases where their yandere stalker does.
Oh no.
And their yandere stalker is usually their biological sister.
Oh no.
Do you know have any idea how common that is in Japanese media?
I have an idea, but I don't want to go into it.
Just want to bang their sisters? Is that just the thing?
I have a feeling that a lot of Japanese men do not have sisters, and thus the fantasy is born there.
That's a possibility as well. Yes. But yeah, it's like very common where the sister, where man is isekai'd, sister dies shortly after, whether self-inflicted or not, and strong arms the local reincarnation deity into
That is the
sending her
whole
after them.
entire premise of an anime that was released last season, or a season, or 2 seasons ago. I don't remember. I don't
And
fucking
then
remember
they
that one.
bang.
Which one was it?
The one with the sister who is like super overpowered.
Oh no, I do remember that one. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Number had to watch that, I believe.
Of course she did.
She dropped it, which says a lot.
So
yes.
yeah.
I do
So-
feel like I remember there being an isekai relatively recently where, like, at least one of the parents did figure it out. I'm trying to remember exactly. I can't. I mean, here's the thing. I haven't watched isekai properly.
Oh,
but,
I know which
like,
one you're talking about. It's Parallel World Pharmacy.
Is it? Okay, good. Yeah, I thought that was in my head, but I couldn't be sure because again, I
Yeah,
still
no,
I
the
still
father
watched it.
the father figures out that there's something different about his son, but he doesn't say anything.
Yeah, it's almost like it's very noticeable to anyone who has half a brain.
Yes. But yes, whatchamacallit? Shit.
Oh, I actually did read I started one and I didn't continue it because exactly because it was a Soul Fusion one, a Japanese one, where this is apparently a phenomenon that is understood and happens and is quite accepted in the world. So the girl who transmigrates and undergoes the soul fusion, at her birthday party, it's like the original host body's birthday cake, but there's a space left next to it, and she's like, "Oh, what's that space for?" And it's like, "It's for your name, or like your other name." And she's like, "What?" And then everyone's like, "Yeah, no, this is just a thing that happens, and it's like, apparently it's something in their culture or religion that encourages this, or like it's considered a thing to celebrate."
Huh. Also, I figured out what the whole thing is with the incest, because it's apparently a cultural thing because of a lot of stories in Japanese mythology. And folktales.
Star-crossed lovers reincarnate as twins and vice versa.
Yeah, stuff like that.
I mean, to be fair, this is something that's very prevalent in human culture because, like, every polytheistic religion essentially consists of large quantities of incest.
Oh yeah. Oh boy.
We're not even going like the obvious answer.
We're not gonna get into it.
The obvious.
You'll have to wait for our incest trope stream.
Oh, and we are not.
We are definitely doing one of those, Jack. You cannot escape it.
I was just saying that as a joke, but Fuzzy, if you want to do one, I'm not going to stop you.
Let's do it. Let's do it. What?
Look, on topic. We have strayed far from the course. Let's get back on topic, shall we?
I mean, have we? Because, I mean, I feel like there will have been, like, stories about reincarnation where, like, former siblings have hooked up. Either knowingly or unknowingly.
So, yeah, it is a thing, especially in Japanese mythology, of people who were lovers in a previous life reincarnating as twins and vice versa. Though I believe the former is much more common than the latter in Japanese mythology and folktales. I would have to double check. Suffice to say, it is reincarnating lovers is also a fairly common trope.
Oh yeah, let's talk about the Demon Slayer epilogue.
Oh yeah. Oh god.
All of the married couples reincarnated as siblings. One of them even gender bent.
Not all of them. One of them did reincarnate as a couple.
Well, no, that's because they didn't actually like. They weren't actually a couple until the moment of their deaths.
Mm.
Right? They died without actually getting together, so they were able to. They got
I
away with
guess.
being a couple, but like.
Well, the thing is,
one-
like all the reincarnations of people as siblings, were also they reincarnated as their own descendants. So at least it somewhat makes sense.
That's also kind of weird.
It is weird, but it makes sense. There's a certain logic to it, unlike some other versions of it.
And here I thought you were
Not
going to bring
only
up
that-
Seven Deadly Sins, by the way.
I am not going to touch that fucking thing.
It's
No.
got a reincarnation in it, Jack. We kind of have
okay.
to.
It handles it very badly.
It does.
Well, no.
Very, very.
Horrifically.
Actually, no. You can make an argument that that's not a reincarnation; it's a regression.
What?
Or not a temporal regression, but a physical regression, because it's not that she, like, someone else gives birth. Based on what we've seen, she just dies and then turns back into a baby.
Is
Huh.
that what happens?
I don't know if that's better or
I
worse.
didn't watch past season 2, so I don't know.
So the one time we see the process, which is from the previous life to the current life, everyone in that kingdom was killed. So I don't think there would have been time for someone to have given birth to a baby that was occupied by that soul, because everyone was killed at the same time. So when he walked out with a baby, the implication is that she just turned back into a baby.
That is very weird. Seven Deadly
Like,
Sins is a very weird series. Let's just say that right now.
I mean, there's the implication that the pig is reincarnated from the parrot, which is just brings
Odd.
up so many plot holes that it's not even possible to comprehend.
Let's not even try to make sense of Seven Deadly Sins anymore. We'll save ourselves a lot of headaches.
Does that make sense?
I'm sorry, what?
Do Seven Deadly Sins have any incest in it?
Not that I can recall off the top of my head. Can we please move on?
No, I'm very confused about how this works.
Seriously, or are you just like
No,
ripping on Jack?
I mean seriously, like, what?
So from what I recall from Seven Deadly Sins, Elizabeth specifically is cursed to reincarnate into someone who will grow up exactly like her, except for her memories. And if she ever gets her memory back, she will die within 3 days. And then the cycle starts over.
And the problem with that is that her previous life was in a kingdom, and her name was Liz, and she was killed.
Yes.
She was killed, and then the subsequent battle destroyed the entire kingdom.
Well, what's to say that
Leaving no survivor. So it
during
is
the
possible.
course of the battle that Elizabeth was born?
That is the only other possibility, yes. However, that just makes Meliodas an even worse person than he was already established to be. Because
He went out of his way to save the reincarnated Elizabeth instead of,
right, and then let everyone else, every other man, woman, and child in that kingdom get genocided, yes.
Yes.
Okay, I think I've been thinking about this the wrong way. Because it's the whole fucking incarnation of a goddess thing, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
So the goddess thing just transferred over to a different person. Does that count?
It's the same soul.
Yes, it is the same soul. Explicitly, it's the same soul.
Oh, fucking Seven Deadly Sins sucks.
You are correct. But reincarnation romance is a very popular trait, a very popular storytelling thing in anime.
It is. Do I get
across culture, right? Like, it's not just an anime thing.
Oh, oh yeah, no, it's definitely cross culture. But Anime, it's a very well known, not very well known, but a very common thing in anime.
Yeah,
And
the
of
whole
course,
principle of
mhm,
and not only is it common, it's not incest every time, which is shocking, honestly.
mhm. Yeah. Of course, there is another wheel-shaped elephant in the room, but we must discuss when discussing reincarnation, Fuzzy.
Oh God. Okay. Look,
Wheel of Time.
Yep.
we'll get to that. But
Reincarnation is the central premise of its world building, Fuzzy.
I know what I want to say is, do we have any closing comments on the isekai stuff?
Isekai generally does it very badly.
There's one thing we haven't addressed. One thing:
Oh,
the ethics of getting with your childhood friend when you are a reincarnated adult.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
just getting with anyone of your reincarnated age when you still have the memories of an older person is, I feel, icky.
At best, it's extremely ethically dubious. At worst, it's downright
The
predatory.
only exception to that is if you both meet when you're adults.
Yes.
Or, of course, if you are like a young adult and pursuing an older partner.
Or if you are a child but you meet the lady who is actually I swear, officer, she's a 500-year-old vampire.
Yeah.
That is another situation where that can occur. There is one singular mitigating factor that I can think of that does come up quite often. It comes up specifically in the Korean for women genre, which is usually features a female protagonist.
Yes.
Which is that while the soul is old, the body is what shapes the mind.
Yes, I have seen that used in a couple of isekai.
Where just because they have the memories and knowledge doesn't mean they can actually use it, because they still have the body and biological limitations of a child, and that includes mental limitations.
Yeah, but I run into one or two isekai where it's like they are the person who is reincarnated acts a lot more like their physical age because
That's
the
just how
mind is
the brain
playing of
works.
the body. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because oh yeah, they're still going through puberty, so they're still going to deal with all those
not even puberty,
uncomfortable bits. For example.
Yeah, but I read one where the protagonist was like, she was frustrated because she was reborn, and the story started when she was around 3, and she was frustrated because she couldn't talk properly because her mouth and muscles just hadn't developed properly, and she couldn't focus on anything important or her past memories, and the past memories were slowly like fading away. And it's like, it's this whole thing where, yeah, just because you've reincarnated and you have the same soul and the memories doesn't mean the body is going to do exactly as you want it to. So that's an interesting thing that can be a potential mitigating factor. But guys, like, do you have any idea how often in Korean media, in the josei or shoujo genres, features a main protagonist who essentially grooms their partner from childhood?
I don't want to know.
The answer is like all of them. I'm not exaggerating. I have yet to read one where that is not the case.
Hold on, I think I have the right reaction for this.
Don't you put that evil on me!
But yes. Anyways, Wheel of Time.
Yeah, talk about Wheel of Time, and then after that I can talk about a good one.
Okay. So, a central premise of the Wheel of Time is basically the cycle of reincarnation ensures that, amongst other things, will ensure that events are repeated, albeit in often somewhat or very different ways, across the ages as time moves forward. Civilization advances and regresses, in accordance with societal developments and disasters and all that. And certain individuals reappear throughout the ages, including, for example, the Heroes of the Horn, who are basically heroes who pop up in every age or so.
The problem with that is that it suffers from a lot of telling and not showing.
Yeah, the only examples we really...
we see one age and maybe like bits and pieces of another.
Yes. It is focused specifically on the third age, and we do get like characters from the second age who pop up. And the series literally ends at the beginning of the fourth age. But it's implied that these ages have come and passed time and time and time and time again.
But again, we're told that and not shown, so we have no idea how it is actually.
We do see one of the Heroes of the Horn, Brigitte, is a prominent supporting character, and we do get her basically mention her experiences of multiple reincarnations, where she'd had a lot of different experiences, and she mentions how remembering the many ways she died is kind of a pain in the ass. And of course,
they're basically in her yard at that point, so it doesn't really count.
Yeah, but yeah, Rand also is an interesting example of the whole kind of a personality merge reincarnation almost.
His is a fusion more than anything else. However, I would like to say it is something that repeats, except when it doesn't. Because Balefire.
Oh yes. Well, it's unclear if Balefire permanently like erases a person from the pattern altogether, or just erases
that
this
is what
incarnation.
it says explicitly. Explicitly, it says it permanently removes. It is permanent deletion. However, what that means is that given the frequency of cataclysms and the frequency of people tossing around Balefire, inevitably there's going to be a few refreshes. There is no way, statistically speaking, that everyone from the first turning of the wheel is around.
Yes. So, an interesting thing you mentioned about Balefire, because so basically the live-action adaptation of the Wheel of Time is effectively treated, or I don't know if it's effectively treated in the show, but it is effectively a different turning of the wheel from the book series, which explains a lot of the adaptational changes and whatnot.
That is the best way of explaining away adaptational changes, yes.
But yes, so trying to remember how this guy died. No, he didn't die by Balefire, so never mind. He died by the inverse of Balefire.
Flame of Tarvalon.
Yes. He died by the inverse. He gets mentioned in the show briefly, so I was like, does that count? No, probably not. But yeah,
also,
interestingly enough, they did remove a few of the Forsaken from the show. They dropped it down from 13 to 8, which makes sense, considering how extraneous some of them are.
Now, it would be really, real funny if those that are removed are the ones that died to Balefire.
One of them is, I'm pretty sure. Bilal, I am 99% sure is not popping up in the show. Because he is minor as fuck.
You know what? If they actually did that, that would be hilarious, and that would automatically bump the adaptation up by an entire tier. Honestly,
so, I'm trying to remember which Forsaken died by Balefire.
It's probably on the wiki.
Oh, okay, I know. I remember 3 off the top of my head. It was Bilal, Balthamala, and Semirog. I remember. They all died by Balefire.
Semirog almost certainly has to show up. I'm pretty sure she's pretty.
Yeah. Well, relevant. There's 8 Forsaken, and they've name dropped 5, and we've seen 3. So we've seen Lanfear, Ishamael, and Moghedian, and Samael and Grayndel have been name dropped, so that leaves 3 to show up in the show.
And I don't think any of those... I mean, Lanfear just... This is like...
Lanfear is an interesting one, because she does tie into the reincarnation thing. Because she tries to get with Rand because he is the reincarnation of her former lover.
Yes, and also Lanfear is one of the biggest karma Houdinis in that series, which is just awful.
She fucking dies, doesn't she?
No, Sanderson recently revealed that she didn't.
I'd have to reread that scene to see if that's
No,
remotely
it's
plausible,
like it was apparently that was the biggest secret, and he wasn't allowed to reveal that until like last year.
Ah, yeah.
He was
I can see
recently
her
allowed
dipping.
to reveal that, where he was like, yeah, no, the reason it seems wildly inconsistent is because it is intentionally, because like Perrin is one of the stupidest characters in the series.
That is accurate, yes.
And so obviously she's gonna pick him to fake her death.
I can see the logic there.
Because with Perrin, she could have like tripped and fall and then pretended to die, and he probably would have bought it.
Regardless,
I really dislike Perrin, in case that wasn't clear.
I don't disagree with you. Regardless,
there is not a single member of the Wheel of Time cast that I actually like.
Regardless, back on topic.
Look, you brought this upon yourself. You wanted to talk about Wheel of Time. We will talk about Wheel of Time, but like, there's gonna be some.
I'm trying to specifically talk about it in relation to this trope. But yes, so the whole Lanfear Rand situation is an interesting take on the whole reincarnation romance, because one of them is reincarnation, the other one is not, and the one who is a reincarnation very much does not want to hook up with his prior life's crazy ex.
To be fair,
so.
They didn't hook up in the previous life either. He dumped her for like a different lady.
Well, they did hook up briefly before he dumped her, is the point.
Yes.
Because she's his ex. But
so,
yes,
so I wouldn't even classify her as a reincarnation, like former life lover. It's a former life ex, which is somehow even more terrifying.
Yes. Yeah, the only, like, 100% definitely played straight example is Brigida and Guy Locane, but Guy Locane doesn't really pop up in the main series really all that much.
That's because he's already been born by the time the series gets into it, so he's a baby for most of the action-packed parts of the series, which is really funny.
Yeah, he only pops up when the horn is blown the first time, and I think like briefly in Teleron-Riode, and that's it.
And then he is subsequently reborn and is a baby, a very ugly baby, apparently.
Yep.
Specifically. Also, on the subject of characters I really dislike, Matt reawakens memories of his previous life when he was that general dude. So he's an example as well.
True. He is.
He's also an example of Robert Jordan not really understanding what he was doing when he tried to flip gender roles.
There's a lot of things Robert Jordan didn't understand how to write, but regardless, we can discuss that in our stream focused on the Wheel of Time proper.
Haven't we already done that?
No, we haven't. We planned one, but we never got around to it. I think we were trying to get Arathon for that, and
well, we'd have to get Eris on for that. We might even see if we can get Gen on for that, because that would make 4.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure Mill would not want to be there.
No, I'm happy leaving Wheel of Time alone.
Understandable. Regardless.
Honestly, lucky.
Yeah. Regardless, like, going on other reincarnation tropes beyond the reincarnation romance, because that one's one of the most common reincarnation tropes. Let's be real.
Can I talk about my good reincarnation series?
Yes, please.
Spirit Circle.
Right.
Where the central premise is reincarnation. And the fact that, these two idiots have been trapped together for, I think, 7 or 8 incarnations.
And also, the central premise is essentially, oh my god, just bang already. For God's sake.
Well, I
Like
mean,
they truly take the will they won't they to the next level.
to a certain extent, yes, but it is interesting because it's more that Coco and Futa, are the only ones actually willing to, properly work with each other out of the incarnations. And actually, I don't know. It's been a while since I've read Sphere Circle. I need to do it again because it's a really fucking good series. So, take everything
But
I
also-
say about this series with a grain of salt. 'Cause
Also, they just really need to bang already. Is the premise of the series.
they're also middle schoolers, Fuzzy.
They weren't always middle schoolers.
Fair.
They were like adults like a few decades ago.
But there was more than one. I feel like there was more than one incarnation where they had like parent-child relationship.
Look, we know Japan is into that, and so is most of the rest of the world. So honestly, that probably would not have been an obstacle.
Either way, it's Futa and Coco are definitely like they break the cycle of their incarnations. Basically, they're the ones that are willing to try and break that cycle. Which is part of the reason why I think Fortuna targets that particular set of incarnations. I can't remember exactly.
Look, it's been a while. Spirit Circle's not the newest series in the.
No, and unfortunately it's on Crunchyroll manga, which, I don't often go out of my way to read stuff on Crunchyroll manga.
I don't
Yeah.
blame. It's super jank.
Yeah, those official websites are so hard to keep track of.
I do have the first two
I-
volumes,
I-
though. So...
Okay, then you have no excuse.
I've got 2 volumes of it. It's like 7 or 8
then
volumes.
Okay, then you have an excuse.
And I'm fairly sure I bought them, like, pre-pandemic. And I haven't read them for a while.
Yes, I will read and reread my 1/4 of the whole series. That will get me the whole experience of the series all over again.
Yeah. But it's, it's definitely one that I would argue does Reincarnation well. And
Okay,
really
I'm
use
going to-
it to its
are
advantage.
y'all ready? Are y'all ready for me to make a lot of people angry?
Go for it.
And it is on topic.
Right,
You want to know a series that I think doesn't do reincarnation well at all?
go on.
Last Airbender.
Really?
Because I feel like it does somewhat break the premise of reincarnation inherently.
In what way?
Because the base premise of reincarnation is that it's the same soul every time. And that does not seem to be the case in The Last Airbender.
That's fair.
That's fair.
Because it's as revealed in Korra, the operative issue is Rava and not the human involved.
Mm.
So it does seem to imply that the incarnations of the Avatar are not the same person reincarnated over and over again. Because then you get into the whole thing of how can the same soul exist in multiple places at the same time? And
Yeah.
things like that. Right? Because that does occur.
Yeah. And, to a certain extent, wouldn't they then be making, more of the same decisions, or at least, I mean,
Yes.
a big point of the finale of Last Airbender is that Aang is like, shut the fuck up, all you murderous bastards!
Oh yeah, I do. That is very funny.
Especially fucking,
Yoshi.
Kyoshi,
Yoshi.
who is like, murder him now.
Her prequel book is really good.
Of the four, somehow Kuruk is the most chill.
Yep.
But that's because Kuruk is just clinically depressed.
But like,
Mhm.
it's very funny how they're all like, I know it's a hard decision, but you need to do it for the sake of the world. Other than Kyoshi, who's like, no, murder him. Murdering my guy was the best thing I ever did. It
I do
almost
love
got me boiled in oil. Still great.
Look,
Yes, we've watched
Kyoshi-
the one TikTok video.
yeah, Kyoshi is so great. I do love the memes about her.
Kyoshi has very strong himbo energy.
Mm-hmm. Have you read the books, Fuzzy?
I've absorbed the plots of the books through mimetic osmosis.
Okay, fair enough.
But
Wasn't there another avatar that also got books that was actually more murderous than Kyoshi?
I don't know if Yangchen's more murderous, but she's definitely more ruthless.
Yeah.
she's
'Cause
also
Yang-
like ruined the world for Kuruk.
Yeah.
She
Like a whole
absolutely
theme that's
destroyed-
really hammered in with the books is it turns out that every avatar does stuff that they regret, and a lot of the time that stuff that they regret is going to have consequences for the next life that the next life has to fix.
which should not have surprised anyone, considering the fact that that through line is maintained in the actual animated series from Roku to Aang to Korra.
Yep.
Right?
I'm
Like,
sure
Aang
that-
spends a lot of his life cleaning up Roku's mistakes, and Korra spends a lot of her life cleaning up Aang's mistakes.
Yep. And of course, Kyoshi's mistake also has to get cleaned up by Aang and Korra as well.
What? Aang
Dai
made
Li.
mistakes? Never. I can't believe that. That series must be terrible. I'm, being a...
Well, to be fair, all of Aang's mistakes happened after Avatar: The Last Airbender ended.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more being, that shit type of fan. That,
Yes,
Yes.
no, we know.
We know.
We're just not dignifying it with a response.
Fair enough, it's what it deserves.
But yeah, so yeah, the fact that they're basically not the same soul, and they're like, this is another interesting thing that I'm gonna bring up in a minute, but the implication is that they're not the same soul, and so I take umbrage with the fact that it kind of plays on the whole reincarnation thing, because that's kind of just like outright not what it is.
That's fair. I mean,
That's
it's
fair.
to a certain extent, it's then sort of similar, and I hate that I'm making this comparison. I hope you know that. Sort of similar to what we were talking about with Seven Deadly Sins, where it's more of a like title reincarnation than it is.
No. That's
Well,
not,
no,
that is not
because
the case.
there's still a through line connecting all the souls that are the Avatar.
No, but in Seven Deadly Sins, it's that's not the case. It is the
Yeah.
same soul every time.
That's-
Don't,
it's the same-
don't bother with Seven Deadly
Yeah, but no.
Sins, honestly. It's not worth it.
But yeah, there's definitely connections. But like, all I'm saying is, they are very much different souls and different people, and that is like brought up by the fact that they don't really feel an emotional or spiritual connection to the lifetimes of the previous avatars. They take them as lessons and as mentors, but never do they say, "Oh, I am you, you are me." Right?
Mm.
So,
I don't know if I agree with that, because there is mention of that.
but like the implications is,
I mean-
in text is otherwise.
I mean, when Toph first meets Korra, isn't there that sort of like
There is.
thing?
Yeah, but also Toph is old and busted by that point, so take it with a grain of salt.
Are you saying Toph was ever particularly sane?
Well, no. What I'm saying is she has less control over her insanity as she ages, or she just cares less about controlling it.
I don't know. Do you remember Melon Lord? I remember Melon Lord.
Yes. Melon Lord is great.
Where she nearly killed some of her friends.
Look,
Toph has always been unhinged, let's be real.
what's a little attempted murder between friends? to be fair, they did befriend Zuko. So, you know,
I was gonna make that point as
that
well.
was really not an issue for them.
Yep. Regardless, reincarnation is a very interesting thing overall.
Oh, sorry. I just want to go back to Spirit Circle for a second because that is something. That is also something that they do where they have, Futa being affected by his previous lives when he, experiences them. Especially if he experiences them in like too quick of a succession. He'll start forgetting himself and will act as the life that he, previously experienced, and we'll see, his friends as their previous reincarnations.
Okay.
Oh, I have one. So, if a character basically is immortal and their form of immortality comes from just being reborn every time they die, is that reincarnation or is that just a weird flavor of immortality?
I think you could make an argument that it's both. It's a weird flavor of reincarnation and it's a weird flavor of immortality. They're the same. Like, they're interchangeable at that point. It's a weird flavor, basically, is the premise of that.
Yes.
Which one it's a weird flavor of is irrelevant.
I mean, it's a weird flavor of both based on what you're saying.
Yes, both and neither, because we like to give straight answers here.
Straight answers? What are those?
Well, me and Mill have no idea. Jack might have some idea.
Yeah, maybe. Probably.
Heyo, because...
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay.
But yeah,
So,
Now-
any other reincarnation tropes you want to talk about before
Well, yes, actually. Look, reincarnation is my thing, my dog.
No, that's fair.
My entire several decade, it's all been almost 2 decades in the making at this point, universe is built on the back of reincarnation in the traditional sense. So believe me, I have a lot to say on this, and
So you might even say, believe it.
could we talk about that in terms of
we're gonna talk
reincarnation?
about that too. Yeah, we're gonna talk about that. But let me say my thing first. In that, how do you feel when reincarnation turns into the ultimate question of nature versus nurture?
That is an interesting question because
I mean,
Because,
can we talk about Dragon Ball then?
What?
Piccolo?
Oob. Oh, Piccolo too.
Okay, Piccolo is different because
And
there's a hesitation that it's not the same guy. Especially with how, we learn later how Namekians work, and that's what Demon King Piccolo did at the end was not reincarnation, it was reproduction.
Yeah.
Okay, then Oob.
Yes, they reproduce asexually.
We know this. But Oob is an example of a character who's
yes,
reincarnated.
Oob is a very interesting case.
Yes.
Especially because where does that leave Fat Boo?
Well, the thing is, Fat Boo is a different part of the original Boo. Because the original Boo was...
But Fat Boo is more Grand Supreme Kai than he is
Yes.
Boo. So yes, okay. Oob is very interesting, and also not canon anymore. As of this moment.
Why? Because you don't want him to be?
Well, no, because he hasn't shown up in Super yet.
I'm fairly sure he has in the manga.
Has he?
I think so.
Oh God!
I think so.
No.
I'm not 100% certain, but I feel like I remember
I have
him.
not followed the Super manga. The anime cuts off about 3 or 4 years before the epilogue of Z. So I think it's I know Goten and Trunks are teenagers for that.
Yeah, he appears in the Moro arc.
Huh.
Well, I guess that's just that is an example of that. But it also is a very interesting question because what is a soul then? Yeah, yes, we are asking this question because in cases like this, the implication is that the soul is an entirely blank slate that is not really much more than a vessel, which I think most cultures and religions would argue against. Right? It's like,
Mm-hmm.
y'all remember that one line in Dresden where Mr.
Yep.
Sunshine is talking to Harry? And he's like, "No, you have it wrong, Harry. You have a body. You are a soul." Remember that?
Vaguely, yes.
Yes. So
I
one
think it
might
was
say that the soul is the person.
Yes,
Oh
and
boy,
the body is a vessel.
are we gonna get into this whole discussion? Because that feels very close to philosophy.
Look, it's not
It's-
really philosophy
Is it
when we're
philosophy
talking
or
about.
theology?
Well,
Either
here's the
way,
thing.
I don't like it. We've had this discussion before. Theology or philosophy, I hate both of them.
Well, no, it's metaphysics actually,
I also hate physics.
but it's not physics; it's metaphysics.
Close enough.
Mill's just not having a good time right now.
But yeah, no, I'm trying to
No,
zip through this. But,
I'm japing.
but the idea is that there are series that directly contradict this idea. So I want to talk about a series that I was like wavering on for years. That it was a series that is like, is a cultivation series written by a white person.
Always a good
Of course.
start.
Well, no, so is Cradle. So you can't really make that argument.
Maybe the exception that proves the rule.
Yes. No. This white person did, in fact, move to China, marry a Chinese woman, and has fully integrated into the culture, which has its own unsettling implications.
Good for them, I guess.
Yes. And totally not propaganda. But, so I was wavering on that series but like, the main character's love interest. So I will say this is something that potentially does count as NTR.
Right.
In this series.
Okay. That's a very good start.
And that's actually kind of what got me to drop the series, because of the handling of that character was very odd. But the main character's love interest is the daughter of the Jade Emperor, who is essentially the like king of the gods in a lot of Chinese mythologies,
Yes.
who is so powerful that she's cursed, and as a result is cursed to eternally reincarnate, and either she incarnates as a regular person and gets to live out a natural life, but like a short natural life, or she gets she walks in the path of cultivation, but then like is hunted to death by eldritch beings from across the cosmos. It's a whole thing. She also has a rabbit.
Okay.
Sounds fun.
So that character does have guideline in that where she is reincarnated is dependent on her like soul's relationships and ties of karma and fate.
Okay.
So it's like generally it's like I think her parents. I think the four things she has at the beginning of the series are her soul can go to her parents, to her teacher, or something like that her student or her like something. So those are 4 all platonic relationships, and then when she meets the protagonist, they fall in love, and then she dies horribly because of course, and then a 5th sort of string of fate is added, that being love, which is this whole thing. Then she reincarnates as a spoiled bratty second generation heir with a childhood friend fiance who, the moment she is unable to properly awaken her powers, the fiance breaks off the engagement because his duty to his family is considered more important than her.
That's pretty
And
shitty.
then, yes, except when she reawakens her powers, he immediately has the engagement come back on.
Of course he does.
Because he's a crappy person who can't. He basically is like, well, he goes on this entire journey where he becomes like, he gains an inheritance and becomes super powerful, and as a result is able to force his family to continue the engagement. But the premise is, if that hadn't happened, he would have left the engagement out to dry.
So he wants to have his cake and eat it too, basically.
Yes. And the reason it's iffy is because the protagonist does meet her in this lifetime, and they do both meet as adults, so that level of ick is not there. The protagonist and her meet as adults, and she recovers her memories of the protagonist, and then denies that part of herself, and then goes back to her fiance, who is a scumbag. And
That's
that was the
pretty
moment
shit.
I dropped the series.
I don't blame you.
Because does that count as a teaser?
Yes and no? Kind of?
Well, no, it wouldn't if she hadn't awakened her memories, but the fact of the matter is, she did get her memories back and still chose to do that.
Mm.
And we get a little glimpse later on, or like earlier on, where her lifetimes have been wildly inconsistent. Like, she's been everything from like this saint-like figure who gives back to the world to a literal tyrant who oppresses and commits genocide. So it's just like, well, at that point, who are you?
Mm.
If your existence and your lifetimes are so dependent on the environment, even in a series where souls are explicitly internally consistent, one must ask, what's wrong with you?
Quite a lot, I would imagine.
Because this is a series where the series actually has a subplot that serves as the prologue and epilogue of every book that takes place in the underworld. And the viewpoint character is Yama, the judge of the dead, who sends everyone on their reincarnation. So it's very clear that souls are more than just a lump of energy that animate a body, that the soul is important and not the body. And yet that one character is horrifically inconsistent.
Does Yama have a mahogany desk?
It is very nice. I do actually believe there are DBZA references in the series.
Oh,
I'm
so,
not joking.
So the person does have at least some degree of culture, even if they are
Yes.
writing something
There
terrible.
are, in fact, I believe Yama did make a DBZA reference at one point. So yes, to answer your question, his desk probably is made of mahogany.
Nice.
But yeah, that's basically my question is, what do you do in that case where the reincarnations and the lifetime seem to suggest the soul is irrelevant and it's entirely environmental, which is ironically been disproven. Like, the whole nature versus nurture debate hasn't really been a debate for a while. The answer, as most scientists infuriatingly tend to give is it's both.
Yeah, no,
While
it's a
environment-
combination. It's
Yeah.
not exclusive. Anyone who
Yes,
thinks
because-
it's exclusive is an idiot and/or ignorant.
Yes, because like it has been established, and I've taken my fair share of developmental psychology classes and lectures where
As
it's
did I.
established. Yeah, where it's established that yes, while the environment is important, people do seem to have this innate nature
Yeah,
that
people have
changes how they
there's-
react to their environment.
there's some degree of innateness to a person's personality, even like from a very, very, very young age. Like
Yeah, so
people
basically-
have dispositions from infancy.
Yeah, so
Well, yeah, it's
basically,
it's a brain chemistry thing, isn't it? You know, it's
It's brain chemistry, it's genetics, it's epigenetics, it's a lot of stuff.
it's a
There's
lot of stuff. but
lot of factors going in.
But basically, the idea is two different people raised in identical environments can and will make different choices.
Yes, exactly.
So, two people who live the exact same life will not necessarily make the exact same decisions because there is an element of nature that is relevant beyond nurture.
I think your dog is
I think
Yeah.
she is staring out the window and it's like,
Biscuit
Is
has
there a squirrel out there?
Biscuit has a rebuttal to your point, Fuzzy.
look,
bump
we all
is
know
squirrel.
that when dogs. Look, we all know that reincarnation is irrelevant to dogs because all dogs go to heaven.
correct. Speaking of reincarnation as animals, though, that is a tenet of some mythologies, isn't it?
It's Buddhism. So Samsara. You know what? We should have done this at the beginning. Let me give you an overview of Samsara.
Sounds like more
Protest-
theology.
Huh?
Sounds like more theology.
Well, don't be
Look.
buzzkill.
I know. I'm
well-
japing. I'm japing.
So the upper two realms are Deva and Asura. The middle two are human and animal, and the lower two are Preta and Naraka.
Yes, that tracks.
Those are English names for them. They have like more complicated names in like Pali and Hindi and Sanskrit and all that. So
I already have trouble pronouncing very simple words in Hindi. I don't think I can pronounce
I
the
told
longer
you-
ones.
what I said were the simple
I know.
translation.
That's what I'm saying. I can probably possibly pronounce those. I can't pronounce longer ones, I don't think. I need to learn more about the language before I try.
So and there's like there's not always duality. So the Pretas are the hungry ghosts. They're kind of they're wraiths, spirits. They kind of just like they are beings that can still interact with the world of the living, but they're not truly living beings. That's their thing. We'll start from the bottom up. Naraka is hell, like almost explicitly.
Yes.
Depending on whether the mythology is the original subcontinental Buddhism or Chinese, that might also be the location of the Yellow River, also known as the Yellow Spring, also known as the River of Forgetfulness, where your sins are washed away and then an old granny gives you some soup and you drink the soup and forget your past life. That is not a joke. That is literally the premise. Mengpo's soup, where old Granny Mengpo gives you a bowl of soup, and then you drink that, and that's the soup of forgetfulness. Though sometimes it is directly happens in the river. It depends on the mythology. But basically, Naraka is either your hell or the transit station, or both, depending on who you ask.
So, like the subway in New York, basically.
I'll take your word for it because I haven't been on it.
It's a joke. It's a joke.
But yes, the middle path, human and animal. Basically, I should note there's this thing called merit and sin, which are power levels, but for your deeds. Uh, you do good deeds, you gain merit. You do bad deeds, you gain sin. I think they're not necessarily mutually exclusive. I think they may be tabulated separately, but I think that's also a matter of, like, depends on who you ask.
Eh.
But yeah, based on that, you get sent to one of the paths, and it should be noted that human and animal are considered the more mundane mortal paths, but it is important to note that in Buddhism specifically, you can theoretically, at least on the middle paths, you can reach Buddhism. You can reach Buddhahood on either one. So technically speaking,
All dogs
not just
can go to heaven.
yes, well, yes, technically speaking, it's not just humans, animals can also gain enlightenment and become the Buddha. And as a result, one of the main characters in my work is a bear.
A bear who has
attained
achieved
enlightenment.
nirvana.
Yes. His name is Colin.
Delightful.
But yes, it is technically possible. I don't know. I need to consult the sacred texts to know if that's only half a joke. To know if you can do that on all 6 paths, but I know for sure that the middle paths of human and animal are definitely able to attain enlightenment. So I believe if you go in order of sin/merit, from bottom to top, it is Naraka, which is just hell. That one is, I think, self-explanatory. Then Preta, which is like you're not being actively punished, but your existence is pain, sort of. Like you're eternally unsatisfied.
How's that different from
So-
life?
Because you can't do anything about it.
You can't die.
How is that different from life?
You can't
You
die even if you want to. That is different from life.
Yeah, I don't have a joke about that one.
Yeah, but then animal, because while you are not inherently sinful, it's a difficult life as an animal. You follow the law of the jungle, and it's basically impossible to have a coherent sapience.
So it's a hard knock life, basically, as an animal.
Yes, you might even say it's a dog-eat-dog world.
Hey,
Then there is the human path, which is considered the most. It's ironically considered the path with the most social mobility.
irony for you.
Well, yes, because it's the path where you're most likely to achieve nirvana for a lot of people, because it gives you more options, and by sheer law of large numbers, you probably also won't be so crappy or so good that you'll reincarnate as something other than a human in your next life. Right? Most people are just living their lives, and people living their lives tend to reincarnate as more people living their lives.
That tracks.
And so that's one thing.
Thank you for coming to Fuzzy's TED Talk on Buddhism.
There's more. There's more.
Oh boy.
There's the two upper ones, right? Then after human is Asura, and after that is the Deva. They're more ambiguous, but the idea is that they're both gods, technically speaking. But the negative point of that is that because they already have power, they're more likely to be stuck in their ways.
Mm-hmm.
So you probably have less of a chance of achieving enlightenment or anything along those lines. And basically, Asuras are inherently, their nature tends more towards aggression, which is why they're lower on the totem pole and they're constantly at war with the Devas. Though, again, Zoroastrianism, it's actually the other way around, where the Devas are the bad guys and the Asuras are the good guys, but it's a whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and above all that, outside the wheel is Nirvana, where you've walked the middle path / eightfold path, whichever you call it, or whichever school of Buddhism you're in, and then you sort of attain enlightenment and become the Buddha. Though there's qualitative differences between Buddhas as well, though that's an entirely separate conversation. So yes, thank you for coming to my TED Talk on samsara and the 6 paths of reincarnation.
So weren't you explaining this to make a point about something?
See, I've forgotten what point I was working towards. But
You really should have written it down.
look, it is relevant either way.
It is. It absolutely is.
Oh, have either of you read The Egg by Andrew Weir?
Nope.
No.
Okay, I will read you that story. I believe it's in the public domain.
You don't have to read it right now on stream. That does seem a bit
No,
excessive.
because it's incredibly relevant.
Is it
You
short?
don't have to read it verbatim. You just give us a summary for now.
Is it short?
Very short, yes.
Okay. Go for it
It's
then.
like less than a page. It's like a page at most.
Okay, go,
Holy crap!
go for it then.
Well, not a. Okay, yeah. Let's like.
I
It's less than 1,000
I
words,
think we
probably.
were worried that it was gonna be like some like a
It's not a
1,000
book.
word thing.
It's a very short story.
Yeah.
So The Egg by Andrew
perfect.
Weir. And guys, we should mark this down. #/moments, even though Twitch moments were deleted for the stupidest possible reason.
Was it capitalism?
No, so Twitch moments was rolled out to maybe like 0.1% of Twitch streamers, or even less than that. And then it was canceled because they were like, oh, not enough people are using Twitch moments. Which I'm sure you can think of the possible reason for that.
Hmm.
In that, yeah, because no one was actually given access to Twitch moments. But yes, so this is the first time on the Storytime Network that we're going to do what I made this channel for. And tell a story.
All right, go ahead.
And I will say, Kurzgesagt beat me to it. They did do this and with animation and everything, but like, I'm just say it anyway. The Egg by Andrew Weir. You were on your way home when you died. It was a car accident. Nothing particularly remarkable, but fatal nonetheless. You left behind a wife and 2 children. It was a painless death. The EMTs tried their best to save you, but to no avail. Your body was so utterly shattered, you were better off, trust me. And that's when you met me. What happened? You asked. Where am I? You died, I said, matter-of-factly. No point in mincing words. There was Truck-kun. Yup, I said. I die? Yup, I am paraphrasing.
I was
You
gonna
should know.
say, did it actually say Truck Coon?
No, but he was killed by a truck, so you know. I will be paraphrasing because that's what we do here.
Mm-hmm.
Yup, but don't feel bad about it. Everyone dies, I said. You looked around. There was nothingness. Just you and me. Not creepy at all. What is this place, you asked? Is this the afterlife? More or less, I said. Are you God? You asked. Yup, I replied. I'm God. Totally. My kids, my wife, you said. What about them? Will they be all right? That's what I like to see. I said, you just died and your main concern is for your family. That's good stuff right there. You looked at me with fascination. To you, I didn't look like God. I just looked like some man, or possibly a woman. Some vague authority figure maybe. More a grammar school teacher than the Almighty. Don't worry, I said. They'll be fine. Your kids will remember you as perfect in every way. They didn't have time to grow contempt for you. Your wife will cry on the outside, but will secretly be relieved. To be fair, your marriage was falling apart. If it's any consolation, she'll feel very guilty for feeling relieved. Oh, you said. So what now? Do I go to heaven or hell or something? Neither, I said. You'll be reincarnated. Ah, you said. So the Hindus were right. All religions are right in their own way, I said. Walk with me. You followed along as we strode through the void. Where are we going? Nowhere in particular, I said. It's just nice to walk while we talk. So what's the point then, you asked? When I get reborn, I'll just be a blank slate, right? A baby. So all my experiences and everything I did in this life won't matter. Not so, I said. You have within you all the knowledge and experiences of all your past lives. You just don't remember them right now. I stopped walking and took you by the shoulders. Your soul is more magnificent, beautiful, and gigantic than you can possibly imagine. A human mind can only contain a tiny fraction of what you are. It's like sticking your finger in a glass of water to see if it's hot or cold. You put a tiny part of yourself into the vessel, and when you bring it back out, you've gained all the experiences it had. You've been a human for the last 48 years, so you haven't stretched out yet and felt the rest of your immense consciousness. If we hung out here for long enough, you'd start remembering everything, but there's no point to doing that between each life. How many times have I been reincarnated then? Oh, lots and lots. And into lots of different lives. I said, this time around, you'll be a Chinese peasant girl in 540 AD. Wait, what? You stammered? You're sending me back in time? Well, I guess technically. Time, as you know, only exists in your universe. Things are different where I come from. Where you come from, you said? Oh, sure. I explained. I come from somewhere. Somewhere else. And there are others like me. I know you'll want to know what it's like there, but honestly, you wouldn't understand. Oh, you said, a little let down. But wait. If I get reincarnated to other places in time, I could have interacted with myself at some point, and that's where the real funny business begins. Sure,
Oh boy.
happens all. And with both lives only aware of their own lifespan, you don't even know what's happening. So what's the point of it all? Seriously, I asked. Seriously? You're asking me for the meaning of life? Isn't that a little stereotypical? Well, it's a reasonable question, you persisted. I look you in the eye. The meaning of life, the reason I made this whole universe, is for you to mature. You mean mankind? You want us to mature? No, just you specifically. I made this whole universe for you. With each new life you grow and mature and become a larger and greater intellect. Just me? Then what about everyone else? There is no one else, I said. In this universe, there's just you and me. You stared blankly at me, but all the people are on Earth, all you. Different incarnations of you. Wait, I'm everyone? Now you're getting it, I said with a congratulatory slap on the back. I'm every human being who ever lived. Or who will ever live, yes. I'm Abraham Lincoln. And you're John Wilkes Booth, too. I added. I'm Hitler, you said, appalled? And you're the millions he killed. I'm Jesus, and you're everyone who followed him. You fell silent. Every time you victimize someone, I said, you are victimizing yourself. Every act of kindness you've done to yourself. Every happy and sad moment ever experienced by any human was or will be experienced by you. You thought for a long time. Why, you asked me, why do all this? Because someday you will become like me, because that's what you are. You are one of my kind. You're my child. Whoa, you said, incredulous. You mean I'm a god? No, not yet. You're a fetus. You're still growing. Once you lived every human life throughout all time, you will have grown enough to be born. So the whole universe, you said, it's just an egg, I answered. Now it's time for you to move on to your next life. And I sent you on your way. So how melted are your brains right now?
Okay, I have actually read that before, I'm fairly sure, somewhere.
It's a very common and popular story, so I understand.
'Cause
What are your thoughts on that?
Interesting.
It is very interesting. Like,
It's reincarnation up to 11.
yeah.
Exactly. It is. It also brings up the whole implication of, oh, you've banged yourself a lot.
Uh-huh. You've also murdered yourself a lot.
And everything in between.
Yup.
I mean, I feel like at the scale that that is talking about. Sort of regular morality doesn't really come into it.
Which I think is the point. Is like,
Mm-hmm.
I think the idea is to like, again, it's the idea is to make a god, right?
Mm.
So how do you make a transcendent experience entity by like making them transcend all possible mortal experience?
Yes.
But it's something that does occur in smaller scales in other works of fiction. So, for example, any work of fiction, and this is more common than you think, where time is not a relevant axis to reincarnation.
Fourth dimension, what's that?
Yes, exactly. So the idea is that with the system of reincarnation, you are not guaranteed that you're going to incarnate into your current life or your previous life. And in fact, this is actually a plot point in Discworld of all things.
I was gonna
Oh,
mention
Discworld.
Discworld, yeah.
Yeah. The pre-incarnation of Cohen the Barbarian is the emperor of Discworld China.
I need to read Discworld.
Discworld is a very difficult series to read properly because you cannot read it in order, but you also it's best to start with Guards.
That is the book I am planning on starting with, yes.
Yes, it is best to start with either Guards, or Small Gods. But I would recommend Guards personally because it's like it's
I
the
heard
only.
the first Death book is also a good place to start.
The Death book does require you to already be invested. I think
Okay.
that's the issue.
Okay.
It's too deep into the meta lore of Discworld to just casually jump into. Whereas Guards is like starts with the smallest possible scale. It's a detective procedural.
Yep, those are very small scale.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly. But yes.
So yeah, it's just the another layer to think about when you're talking about reincarnation is that you have to consider, well, if time is not a factor, then could I possibly interact with myself? And if I do, is that self-cessed?
Yes, no, maybe so.
Mill, you read fan fiction. What are your thoughts?
I mean, it feels like that's getting again into the whole souls thing, of, you know, if it's, because you aren't the same person. Not, oh fucking hell.
That response was my intention the whole time.
Yeah. All right, fuck souls because they're dumb. You are not the same person.
Well, here's the thing. While different people in the same environment may respond differently, that also means that the same person in different environments will respond differently. It's a two-way street, right?
Right.
So remember, it's not just nature or just nurture. The environment is an incredibly important factor on your upbringing. So if the same soul is raised in two different environments, then theoretically, it could end up as a very different seeming person while still being the same soul.
Souls are dumb.
But the idea is that even if the nature is identical, differing nurture will lead to differing results, regardless of nature. In the same way that if nurture is identical, differing nature will lead to different results.
I don't like the idea of souls. They're dumb. They lead to these discussions that I don't like.
See, you say that, but can you guarantee that you don't have a soul?
No, but I
You're
don't
not-
care. But I don't care. It doesn't affect my day-to-day life.
But like, what about?
Are
Like-
we still on this?
We're getting into the Pascal's wager territory, I think, at this point.
Can we just move on, please?
Can we talk about
You're the
Naruto,
one-
please?
Yeah,
Which is
let's
not,
talk about-
Alright,
not something I
Nart.
ever thought I'd be saying, but please, can we just go to Naruto?
Ah, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is why they have me on the podcast. And this is why they sometimes wish they didn't. But yes, Nart. Nart is dumb. It's the dumbest possible interpretation of reincarnations.
Yes, because it's like, oh, you are reincarnated and you have all this power from your reincarnation, and also all the reincarnations of these two same dudes are connected always.
Except, here's the part where that falls apart.
Mm-hmm.
Hashirama and Madara are supposedly also incarnations of Ashura and Indra,
Yep.
but they exist at the same time as Nart and Sask.
Yeah, but they're also undead at the time.
Yeah, but souls, dude.
True. Yes. That shouldn't be possible if they follow actual reincarnation
Yes,
mechanics
if
rather
they
than
follow
bullshit.
it's so the idea is it's Avatar rules rather than actual mythological rules.
Mm-hmm.
Because if nothing else, mythology is consistent in that one thing: is the idea of the immortal soul being more important than the shell of flesh.
Yes.
So, yeah, reincarnation and does in mythology tend to follow the rule of thumb of it's the same soul, different shell, different environment,
Mm-hmm.
which apparently Mill no longer likes.
What are you talking about? Mill is having a great time, aren't you, Mill?
I don't like these discussions.
Okay, let's
You
get
agreed to
into that.
this.
Let's. More importantly, you agreed that I would be here for this. But
To be
also,
fair, this has been a very much more reincarnation focused than I expected.
Fair.
I
Yeah,
expected
because
some
death
death
is
in
too
here.
broad a topic. Death is too broad a topic. We can't do a death and reincarnation podcast. We need like 3 different podcasts for death alone to get through the death tropes.
And we'd have to probably go in like alphabetical and or thematic order.
Yes, and I'd be happy to do that. I love talking about this stuff, so I would love to talk about that with you guys. But
We can
let's just
discuss that off stream then.
yes, but yeah, the reincarnation stuff is let's get into it, Mill. Why are you not liking these discussions?
Mill?
I'm thinking. Give me a moment to think.
Funny, because my last 2 lectures were on Freud and Neo-Freudian, so
Hmm.
we about to get all psychoanalytical up in this B word.
I genuinely just think it feels like it doesn't matter. Like,
So okay,
what does it change?
so I think base premise of this and the reason why you are approaching this from a different level that me and Jack are is because Jack and I are both religious and believe in an afterlife
Mm-hmm.
pretty firmly, I would say, right, Jack?
Yep. I'm not as practicing as I used to be, but I still do have a pretty strong connection to my faith.
The faith is there, yeah. And I think that is because, like, your question is, what does it matter? Well, during your mortal life, it doesn't. But if you believe in an afterlife, that's when it becomes super relevant.
Yep.
And that's, I think, why me and Jack are approaching this from a different place as you are, because I don't know. I know you're not like a member of any one religion, but I don't know where you fall on the atheism agnosticism spectrum.
I hate organized religion,
which is a very reasonable and probably the correct take. I say this
Understandable.
as someone, I say this as someone who is part of an organized religion.
Yeah, no. I'm part of an organized religion. Part of the reason there are very good reasons why I have largely drifted away from the church.
Yeah.
I struggle to believe in a, God that supposedly, loves everyone, but still allows horrible things to happen. But I also understand that if such a being exists, they are probably working on an entirely different, plane of consciousness.
So, I think the Dresden Files actually did a really good take on that, where it's like, he's doing, the God is doing the whole, in mysterious ways thing, and
it's not so much
well, that at least an interesting take on Christianity specifically, where it's works in mysterious ways and doesn't interfere more directly because of a respect for the free will of individual human beings.
Well, it's the whole thing of how utopia and free will are somewhat mutually exclusive.
I would say they're not necessarily mutually exclusive, but like they are very, very, very difficult to have coexisting.
Yes, because essentially the base premise of free will is that you can choose to be a good person, but you can also choose to be a dick, and God will not interfere in that choice.
Yeah.
I would also say the fact is that, as I said, if there is an afterlife, it doesn't really, necessarily affect me right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not really something I'm too bothered about thinking about.
Unless, of course, the mainstream Abrahamic faiths are correct, and being a non-believer gets you straight to hell. Which
here's the thing. If God is truly as kind and as loving as as the faith says, why would that matter? Why would it matter that you?
My understanding of Judaism is that
you are practicing, whatever. Why would that matter? As long as you are a good person, why does it matter if you read a book written by flawed idiots who translate it shittily, or you go to church to listen to said book being read? Like, why would that matter to this almighty deity?
My understanding of Judaism is that there isn't really a hell in Judaism.
Yeah, Sheol is more of an absence of God than anything else. It's like extended purgatory. But no, what's funny is a lot of the Abrahamic faiths, if you go back to the oldest versions of them, do essentially say that if you're a member of the faith, that's equivalent to like buying a fast pass at Disneyland.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the be all end all.
It's basically the hey, this guarantees you a shot at paradise.
Well, no, because if you're a member of the faith but you're a shitty person, you're still going to hell, according to most of these religions. And if you're not a member of the faith but you're a good person, you've still got a shot of making it into the good place. So it's like.
So a lot of the whole non-believers go straight to hell is much more of a medieval invention, and it was kind of codified by Dante.
Yes.
And who actually made
his Inferno.
Inferno, specifically, the first level of the Inferno, Limbo, was reserved for the quote-unquote virtuous pagans, according to Dante. And that codification has kind of seeped into modern Christianity.
And
across,
the church and religion is how how the peasants were controlled, so that doesn't surprise me.
Mm-hmm.
They want as many people as possible following their rules.
It's also funny because that means that in hindsight, Dante Alighieri is the single most successful fan fiction writer of all time.
Correct.
Which is just really funny to me.
Also, he wrote the first isekai, technically.
Oh my god, you're right. And it was the first Portal fantasy.
Yes. Yeah, that's more accurate, but it's funnier to say it's the first isekai.
Yes, it is funnier to say. But yeah, Look, it was probably inevitable that when we started talking about death and reincarnation tropes, we'd get into religion and all that.
Because reincarnation and the afterlife are kind of very heavily tied into religion, even if they're just discussing
It's
it
like
from a perspective of fiction, because fiction is
Death-
heavily influenced by culture, and yeah.
death and mortality are the reasons religion was born.
Mm-hmm.
Because death was something that human beings for the moment they achieved sapience and they realized, oh, I'm aware that I'm living life, and then they realize, oh shit, life ends.
The existential dread of realizing that you will someday die.
Yeah, I try not to
Is-
think about it.
I'm not gonna go into my thoughts on it because it's that'll get a bit too dark for the stream.
I would rather
but
you not, yeah.
Let's not.
let's not say we did.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, they are not just related; they are causally related.
Mm-hmm.
Like they are directly one came about from the other, for all intents and purposes. And it's why I firmly believe that if I had been born in caveman times, my autistic ass would have been a prophet.
Mm.
One of the prophets
'Cause,
everyone
like-
listened to, or one of the prophets that got stoned?
Well, I do have a track record of successfully having started a cult, so I'll let you make that decision.
So both?
Look, I think I could probably gain enough meat shields to avoid the stoning.
That reminds me of something, but I'm not going to talk about it on stream.
Okay, yes. But anyway, they are inexorably linked to each other, and it was inevitable that we were going to talk about religion when we started about death, almost like how death is inevitable.
Yep.
We're all
Especially
gonna
when we
die.
brought up literally anything tangentially related to reincarnation or the afterlife, because that definitely dips into religion and the influence religion has on society and its media.
So what you're saying, Jack, is that human society and culture is a complex, interconnected web of concepts that cannot really be taken in a vacuum?
Correct.
Shocking!
I know, right? It's wild.
I sometimes feel like we're not qualified to talk about some of the things we talk about.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, absolutely not.
It's just like, we do give the disclaimer that we have no idea what we're talking about, and we're just like,
We're just,
Oh,
we're
yeah,
just
no.
three
We
idiots
are
talking.
speaking.
Yeah,
We are speaking from our very, very limited amounts of expertise.
no,
But
we,
at
Yeah,
the
a lot
same
of this is
time-
bullshit.
we are 100% just
I
three
think-
idiots talking. Like,
but at the same time, A, that's literally the scientific method and process. That's just how that comes about. And two,
That was inconsistent. You said A and then 2.
what are you talking about? I said one and B like all the normal people out there. Anyway, the second thing is that this is such a complex, like, as we discussed, human culture is so complex and multifaceted that no one can really be qualified to talk about it as holistically as it needs to be talked about. Right?
absolutely
It's a catch-22 where to properly understand and appreciate it, you need to approach it holistically, but literally no one has the time and capacity necessary to approach it truly holistically.
There are Jewish scholars who have dedicated their entire lives to studying the Torah specifically.
And even they're probably not. They would, and even the more open-minded of them would probably admit that they have like very little idea what they're talking about.
Even then, they would say like they're not probably the best person to talk to on the answer because they imagine there is someone who's better at it than them, or they just don't know everything there is to know about it. Because, like,
so it's like
Torah isn't a particularly dense book compared to, say, like, the Mahabharata or the Bible, in terms of the amount of pages there is to it. It's like, that's just one text for religion. Imagine how much study you would have to put in to know everything there is to know about one culture.
And it's kind of like, and we've kind of run into that problem with the sciences of late, right? Is like I feel like, first of all, early discoveries were not necessarily simpler, right? They were just more front-facing or accessible in the sense that you didn't need as much technology and sensitive equipment, but that didn't make it easy, right? You still had to start from scratch in first principles. But the thing I'm trying to get at is that as time has gone on, it has been accompanied by the death of the polymath. You can't really have polymaths like the Greek philosophers anymore because there's too much science for any one person to be able to master every available field.
What about
Do you think Leonardo
Senku?
da Vinci was the last great polymath?
Who?
Do you think Leonardo da Vinci was the last great polymath?
No, I would say he was near the end, but there were some mathematicians who were involved enough in the other sciences that they could be considered polymaths.
Like maybe a Newton?
A Newton, maybe. You can even make an argument for Euler, Leonard Euler, of Euler's number fame. But yes, for the layman's and for the early level understanding, yes, Da Vinci would probably be considered the last great polymath. And the fact that happened over 500 years ago and that science has made explosive progress since should tell you the difficulty of being a polymath in the modern day.
Sometimes literally explosive progress.
Look, I just watched the world's strongest creator commentary yesterday, so the atom bomb really ends a lot of arguments.
I was gonna say, have you watched Oppenheimer, or but no.
Or Barbie.
Have you watched Barbenheimer? Is the question.
You think Cillian Murphy regrets not signing up for Barbie?
Maybe a little
Who
bit,
knows?
just for the meme.
Yeah.
But also, I think it's a good enough movie that I think he wouldn't have minded being in it. Because we know Cillian Murphy is a very discerning actor.
Yes. But we are off topic, and I imagine we don't have much else to say. Well, we have loads to say on this, but we don't have time to say more on this.
Yeah, we have past 2 hours at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. So, So you're saying that broad cultural tropes are so complicated that we can't cover them in just 2 hours?
You are correct.
But we'll do our best regardless. So
we can only try.
Thank you for watching. Hopefully you have enjoyed that. This
mostly me ranting and trying to melt Mill's brain.
Yeah. I feel like I did after I watched that Vinland Saga episode, and it's not a happy feeling.
Yeah. I remember how salty you were after that one.
It may have killed the show for me.
I'm shocked that you lasted that long.
Vinland Saga is good.
A lot of things killed that show for me, but I think the whole Karma Houdini Askeladd was the thing that really killed it for me.
Oh, that didn't help.
Regardless.
But yes, regardless, thank you for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed. In terms of future stuff, Fuzzy, if you're available tomorrow, we can get a start on the One Piece character tier list, which will take us several streams.
That will take us probably till the end of next year. There's so many, I'm pretty sure
literally over 8,000 characters.
I'm pretty sure the entirety of the first stream is going to be a session 0 that sets ground rules. we're going to have to open a Google Doc with ground rules and like
We
categories.
should write them down, shouldn't we? Because we always
Yes.
set ground
Never
rules and then we
write them.
forget what the ground rules are.
Yes, so we should like just write down ground rules, and if we come up with a new one, add it to the doc as we are going.
Also, we could try to do that off stream. We can do that
We
off
can,
stream.
yeah. We can. Yeah. I should. So, okay. Disclaimer is that it's Canadian Thanksgiving weekend. Monday is Canadian Thanksgiving because we have it in October instead of November. And
Seems good.
as a result, family is visiting. So while I was available today, I'm not actually going to know if I'm available tomorrow. But
We'll be starting earlier tomorrow than we did today.
yeah.
If that
So
helps.
I'll yeah, that does help. So I'll have to get back to you on it tomorrow.
Sounds good.
In terms of Canadian Thanksgiving, what indigenous tribe did you guys murder and give thanks for?
There's several. I can actually name them off the top of my head, but I'm not going to because I don't know if that would be considered culturally insensitive.
Fair enough. So
Because I think, like, yeah.
hopefully that'll be Sunday. We'll have to see. Tuesday and Thursday, probably gaming, probably trying to make a finish on Dragon Age Inquisition Trespasser. We've started that now. We are so close to finishing Dragon Age and setting aside Inquisition. Thank God. Ugh. I
Finally burnt out on it.
I burnt out on Inquisition a while ago.
Ah.
I do not generally enjoy playing Inquisition.
Gameplay is a tad janky, yes.
There are parts of Inquisition I like, mostly character stuff. With the occasional this is a somewhat fun fight. I like facing the dragons. The dragons are fun fights because they're not that difficult.
Yeah, the big spectacle fights are fun in that game, but like those are few and far between.
I mean, us versus Corypheus wasn't much of a spectacle. We murked him within like 10 seconds.
Yeah, but like that's because he's a story boss. Story bosses aren't supposed to be.
We'd also
Interesting
done
It was
one of
massively overleveled.
yeah, we'd also done one of the DLCs by that point. So
Yeah, that'll do it.
he didn't last long when he actually had to fight us and wasn't, just reaching a health threshold for the next stage. Anyway, and then next Saturday is the fall 2023 anime premiere stream. There are some good shows. There are some not so good shows. I wonder if Yuzuki-san's subtitles have been corrected yet.
Fucking hope so. I kind of want to watch that one.
I kind of wanted to watch it without the subtitles corrected because
What I'm curious is, how many of the series this season's manga have I read? The answer
more
is
than
probably
one.
I mean, I need to put a list up on our podcast schedule document, but once I do, you can check it there, Fuzzy.
yeah, because like, you know what? You know what would be kind of interesting?
Mhm.
A seasonal manga thing. But like,
I don't know if Mill and I keep up with enough manga for that to work for us.
which is funny because for me, keeping up with manga is much easier than keeping up with anime.
It is, but we also have slightly more morals about piracy.
Look,
Which is not a dig. I'm saying that outright. It's
We
not a
have
dig.
a
It is
lot
just a
more
fact.
functions about it.
It is
yes.
just a fact. We do, and even I'm starting to lose those.
Yep.
yes, join us.
I'm reading like
Come on,
4
man,
series
boss.
right now that don't really. I'm not doing it officially. I'm just gonna say now.
Well, sometimes it's just because of a lack of availability.
Yeah, I would get the official volumes of Awashi if I could, but I can't. So fuck you, and I still need to read it.
Look, that's an issue on the company's end. They're not giving you the supply to meet your demand, so you gotta satisfy the demand some way else.
Yes.
In terms of other series, in terms of other series,
Even-
though, no, I'm just being cheap. And I don't want to buy like a fuck ton of volumes.
But yes.
Anyway, yes, something to consider. Otherwise, again, thank you for watching. Please do give us a follow here on Twitch and all that YouTube stuff that I'm still too good to say.
And
Please, if you have not already, press that
please-
bell icon to get notifications when we post our videos.
And please, leave a comment yelling at me. I feed on your hatred. I know there's so many of you that disagree with me. So
The
please,
sauce is delicious.
yes, you can't taste food without salting it. So give it to me.
So again, thank you for watching, and hopefully we will see you tomorrow for either the tier list or something else that we do.
Later.
Good night.
Bye bye.